Good morning, and thank you all for joining us today. My name is Peter Warda with the SCV Chamber of Commerce, and I'm pleased to welcome you all. Before we get started, I do have a couple of housekeeping items that I'd like to go over with you. So throughout the webinar, as always, please use the questions feature in your control panel to submit any questions that you have. This webinar, we're going to run it a little different than our past ones. It is going to be two parts. So our first presentation will be on the upcoming grants from the LA Regional COVID-19 Relief Fund. And then the second will be on voting during the pandemic. So once we finish the first part, we'll go into a Q&A session for that one, and then we'll jump into the second part of the presentation, and then do a Q&A feature at the end of that one. If you have any questions, please email hello@scvchamber.com. As always, we're monitoring that email live during our webinars. Also, please make sure to check our events page on our website, www.scvchamber.com, to register for our upcoming events. We are pleased to announce the return of our business after hours mixers, but we've revamped them to be virtually. So check out our events page to register. Our first mixer is hosted by UCLA Health, and it's on Wednesday, October 21st at 6 p.m. And it is free for our members. As you know, so we've partnered with Supervisor Catherine Barger for our COVID resource webinar series. Our goal for this series is to uplift and empower our local businesses by creating original content designed to support your business. So before we jump in, I would like to play a quick welcome message from her for you all.
Hi, I'm Los Angeles County Supervisor Catherine Barger. I am proud to partner with the Santa Clarita Valley Chamber of Commerce for their highly anticipated and much needed COVID Resource Webinar Series. As we all navigate this pandemic, the county and the Chamber have worked to provide the Santa Clarita Valley business community with the relevant and supportive resources they deserve. Through this series, our goal is to sustain, uplift, and empower our local businesses. The Chamber has created original content designed to support our businesses, which will feature incredible speakers equipped with valuable, timely information. I look forward to having all of you join us to learn about each of the unique topics throughout the series. Please know my office and the Chamber are here to support you, just as we always have.
So for the first part of our presentation, we're joined by Azusena Favela, Deputy Director at the County of Los Angeles Department of Consumer and Business Affairs, who's going to discuss the upcoming grant opportunities from the LA Regional COVID-19 Relief Fund. So for those of you who don't know, the fund still has over $40 million left to award, and applications will be open for you to apply beginning this Monday, October 5th. Grants are available for micro entrepreneurs, very small businesses, very small nonprofits, and small businesses. Ms. Favela will go into detail about the qualifications for each of them. And so with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning. Peter, thank you so much, and thank you to the Santa Clarita Valley Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity to share the information related to the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs, as well as the LA Regional COVID-19 Recovery Fund. So I will walk through some of our services. So the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs has actually been open since 1976. We have a wide range of services. We are one of the more public-facing departments for the county. So as you can see, anything from wage enforcement, price gouging, small claims services, mediation. Particular interest to you is our Office of Small Business that can provide support around certifications and access to capital. Our department at the beginning of the pandemic, so in late March, also launched the LA County Disaster Help Center that has live operators available Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. that can offer assistance related to any of these topics. So connecting individuals to county programs, access to capital, unemployment benefits, insurance claims, and connecting you to local resources. So we've done a lot of work to gather information about county resources, as well as resources available from our partners in the nonprofit sector. As a small business, if you have any questions related to the public health order, you can call our operators and they can help guide you through that process as well. Today, I will spend the bulk of my time talking to you about the LA Regional COVID-19 Recovery Fund. The Recovery Fund was approved by our Board of Supervisors in April of this year. We partnered with the City of Los Angeles to launch this fund. Together, we have grown this fund from a small $3 million fund to over $100 million. And again, this is a partnership with the City of Los Angeles, making this a county-wide program. So any cities within the County of Los Angeles are eligible to apply. So there's a few different categories that I will walk you through today. I will start with micro enterprises, and what you see here are the grant award sizes. So for micro enterprises, they're eligible for $5,000. For very small businesses and very small nonprofits, they're eligible for $15,000 grants. For small businesses, $25,000 grants, and for small nonprofits, $75,000 grants. So now I'll go through a description of what those are. So who's a micro entrepreneur? This is, I think, one of our broadest categories. So this can capture anyone who is an independent contractor, a 1099 worker, maybe you were in the gig economy, so as a Lyft, Uber driver, perhaps street vendors, sole proprietors. This is one of the only funds that have designed this particular category specifically for micro entrepreneurs. And again, this is a $5,000 grant award that you may be eligible for. So for a very small business, this is defined as those businesses, and I'm sorry, what I would clarify with the micro entrepreneur is that as long as your income or your revenue is below $100,000, you're eligible for this category. As a very small business, that's those businesses that have revenue between $100,000 and $1 million would qualify as very small businesses. These are $15,000 grants, and what we would need is your 2018 or 2019 tax returns to verify the revenue. You must also hold an active status with the state of California, and if you are in the city of Los Angeles, perhaps you will need a business tax registration certificate. If you're not within the city of LA boundaries, you do not need to worry about any other special licensing requirements. As a small business, we've defined that as those that have revenue between $1 million and $5 million. And these entities are eligible for $25,000 grants. Same criteria in terms of tax returns, active status, and the BTRC if you are part of the city of Los Angeles. Now, for very small nonprofits, and maybe this information doesn't apply to those that are on today, but if you know of any organizations in the community that could benefit from this, I would encourage you to share the information as well. These are $15,000 grants for organizations that have revenue under $1 million. We will prioritize organizations that are serving low to moderate income communities, and they must hold a 501c3 status. The other unique feature about this category is that it also captures chambers of commerce. As long as the revenue size is under $1 million, they are also eligible to apply for this grant. This category will ask for a DUNS number, so if you're not registered with Dun & Bradstreet, this would be a time to do that. If you're part of the city of Los Angeles, they did add a floor of $50,000, but not that doesn't apply for any jurisdictions outside of the city of Los Angeles. Now we have a round that we called round 4.5. It was a special round for nonprofits. We actually just closed this round last Friday, and these were for $75,000 grants for nonprofits with revenue between $1 million and $5 million. And we were looking for organizations that were impacted by COVID, meaning they are now being asked to offer more services in response to COVID-19. So here's our timeline. We actually launched the fund with $3 million in early July. And so you'll see that we've gone through round 1 through 4.5, meaning there are 2 remaining opportunities for you to be selected. If you've applied in round 4, you do not need to reapply. But if you haven't applied, I would highly encourage you to apply in round 5. This is the round you want to be in. Why is that? Because in round 5, we are pulling the largest number of winners in total. So we are pulling 65% of our winners will come from round 5. So let me talk to you a little bit about what we have seen so far in terms of applications that we've received. So you'll see there's 2 categories here, number of applications we've received, and then the actual number that are eligible. Entities become ineligible if they're outside of our jurisdiction. For example, we've received applications from as far as Minnesota. And so we do clean up the data, we do look for duplicates, and we do clean the information up, so you don't need to apply more than once. We will remove duplicate entries. So in our last 2 rounds, for example, round 4, we pulled a little bit over 1,000 winners. In round 4.5, we're pulling 96 winners. That was the nonprofits. In round 5, as I said, we expect to pull 65% of our winners. And so that'll be about 4,500 finalists that will be selected in this round. So where can you go apply? You need to visit lacovidfund.org, and there's 2 tabs that I would point you to. One would be the grants tab, which is where you can find the application and begin the process. And 2, if you need support or you have any questions, there is a need help tab. And I'll talk to you about what you can find under each of those. So it is a lottery process. Once your name is entered into the system, then your name will be pulled at random from the application portal. There are some weights that we've identified to help prioritize some of the finalists based on the direction of the board. So any organizations or entities that are located within low-income census tracts, any entities that are veteran-owned, and census tracts that maybe have a higher levels of pollution, and census tracts that have experienced higher unemployment rates, lower education rates, a lower median income, and a lower job to population rate. The application is available in PDF format in multiple languages. We do have an FAQ that's also available in multiple languages, but the application must be submitted in English. You will need an email address, as because of COVID-19, our communication has been 100% via email. You will need it in order to submit your application, but we will be calling you if we don't hear from you via email once you're selected. As I said, the application will be open for 5 days. So beginning Monday, October the 5th at 12:01 a.m., the portal will open, and it will close on Friday, the 9th at 11:59 p.m. It does not matter where in that time frame you submit your application. Again, it's lottery based, so it's randomized. So it doesn't matter if you turn it in at 12:01 on Monday or late on Friday. Although I would encourage you to get it early, because if there's any technical difficulties or you have any questions, I want to make sure that you can connect to services and support. So here's additional criteria for finalists. If you are selected, I would mention, the application is fairly simple. It will ask you very basic contact information about you, about your business, the types of services that you offer. We will ask you to select, a revenue category based on your information from 2018 to 2019. Once you're selected as a finalist, you will receive an email notification from our fund administrator notifying you that you've been selected. Because we have a strict timeline to push this funding out, we will give you 5 to 7 days to respond. We will make phone calls, and after several attempts, meaning 5 to 7 attempts to contact you, if we don't hear from you, you will forfeit your award, and we will select another finalist. What will we ask for in that verification process? We will ask you to submit your tax returns so that we can verify the revenue or income that you're reporting. We will ask you to submit documentation of your active status with the California Secretary of State. If you're veteran owned, we will ask you for the DD-214 form. And we'll also ask you for your banking information. We will ask you for a W-9 and an ACH form so that we can process the payment. Another note is that the business or entity should have been established by September 2019. So the funding is not for new businesses. This is to support businesses that may have been impacted by COVID and the closures 6 months prior to the stated emergency. Again, as part of your selection as a finalist, you will be asked to participate in a 1-hour webinar that will walk you through each of the steps in order to complete the process and finalize your award. So here's some common questions that we receive. Do I have to reapply if I've already applied? If you applied in rounds 1 through 3, in those rounds, you were asked to reapply every single time. We heard loud and clear from the business community that this was too much trouble and that we needed to change that. And so we did. Beginning in round 4, if you applied in round 4, your name will remain in the lottery system for rounds 5 and 6. So if you applied in rounds 1 through 3, please apply again. If you applied in round 4, there is no need to reapply. Can I change my application after it's been submitted? Unfortunately, we can't change your application. So you can't email me or call me and say, Azusena, I made a mistake. I need to resubmit my application, or can you change this on my application? I cannot change your application, unfortunately, once it's in the system. You can reapply. If there's an error that you caught, and you are within the window that the application portal is open, you can reapply a second time. There are ineligible uses of the funds because it is federal money. We do encourage you to read through the full list of eligible and ineligible uses. What kind of confirmation will you get? Once you submit your application, you instantly receive an email that says your application has been submitted. If you do not receive that email, it means there may have been a problem with your application. In a case like that, I would encourage you to apply a second time just to ensure that everything was submitted properly. How will you be contacted if you are a finalist? Like I said, we will try email first, and if we don't hear from you, we will continue our communication via phone. If you're undocumented, are you eligible for this grant? Yes, you are eligible for the grant, but you will still need some form of a tax ID number through your taxes from 2018 or 2019. Does this impact unemployment or any public benefits? It may, and so we encourage you to make that assessment before you apply or before you fully accept the award. Any other tips? We encourage you to make sure that your name or business name don't have any special characters like hyphens or exclamation marks. If they're legally part of your name, I would leave them off. And then once we ask you to submit your documentation, we'll be able to see the full name. So this is here's some of our partners. Again, it's a partnership between the county, the city of Los Angeles, our colleagues at LACDA, LISC, and we also have generous funding that's supporting technical assistance from Union Bank, Wells Fargo, and Citi Financial. The assistance that is available, we have 8 nonprofit organizations that have been funded to provide direct one-on-one support to you if you need help with the application. How can you reach us? Again, our website, lacovidfund.org. You can email us at lacovidfund@lisc.org. And if you need help or have any questions about any of the information that I presented or information about our department or county resources, I encourage you to call the County Disaster Help Center at 833-238-4450. And with that, I'll turn it back over for questions.
Peter, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Azusena, thank you again for all that. Do you mind just putting back the slide that has the contact page so that way we can, while we do the Q&A, people can just have that up? Is it possible to just put the second to last slide up? So we've got a couple of questions to run through with you. First one is, where can we see a list of eligible uses for the funds?
Great question. So that is available on lacovidfund.org.
Okay, and then and I believe this was covered when you were talking about the different for like micro entrepreneurs, small businesses, but just to double check on that, tech startups with revenues less than 100,000, are they eligible under the micro entrepreneurs?
They would be eligible as long as they were established by September 2019.
Okay, perfect. And then when would someone be notified after the application closes? When would they be notified if they're awarded? And are you notified if you're not?
Great question, Peter. You are notified within 10 days if you are a finalist. And so we encourage you to monitor your email so you will receive communication. We've received a lot of feedback from applicants who have not been selected about communication. And so we will now notify all non-selected applicants that they were not selected in this specific round, but that their name will remain in the drawing for the next round.
Okay. And then depending on the amount, so for example, a nonprofit's eligible for 15,000. Based on your application, and if you're chosen, you're either going to get 15,000 or nothing, or could you get could you get 10,000, for example?
Sure, the amounts are fixed, and so for a micro entrepreneur, the award is 5,000. For very small businesses and very small nonprofits, it's 15,000, and for small businesses, it's 25,000. So we are not taking a percentage based on your revenue or your income. Those are fixed award amounts.
So you're either getting that amount or you're not getting it at
exactly.
all. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then, so I know you mentioned that you guys go through, and because sometimes you get duplicates, and there's no way to change your application if you've made a mistake. So you were saying to just reapply. Is it by timestamp, or how would you know when you go through to pick out the duplicates which one my current application is, or which one's the correct one, sort of say?
Sure. So we have an entire team that's going through the entries, and so we will select the one that has the latest timestamp.
Okay. And then for gig economy, so like a Lyft driver, for example, how long would they have to been with the company as well if they wanted to apply? Let's say, right before COVID, or because of legislation that passed and was signed in earlier this year, it's been making it a little difficult for them. What's their what's their requirement on how long they had to have been with their company to be eligible to apply?
It's less about the amount of time that they were in the field, but rather were they doing it prior to September 2019. So
Okay.
we want to ensure that we're supporting folks that were already in business, were already operating prior to September 2019.
Perfect. And then the next question I have for you is, someone's asking if their entity was created in 2018, but their business has not yet opened, they're in the build out phase, are they eligible or no?
It depends, Peter. If they have tax returns, they may be eligible, but if they have not filed any taxes in 2018 or 2019, unfortunately, they won't be eligible. The tax returns are, they're vital to our verification process. And so if an entity is unable to produce them, then we're unable to verify that they qualify for that category.
Okay. I just got a couple more questions for you. I know you mentioned that when you're awarded, you'll have to go through a 1 hour required webinar. Are there multiple webinars, or is it like just one and you have to do your best to be on it? Or are there going to be multiple ones that you can sign up for depending on if it works with your schedule?
There will be multiple. So we will host multiple live webinars. We're also recording the webinar and making it available for applicants to watch, or finalists to watch on their own time. Again, in round 5, we expect the largest number of finalists. And so we want to make sure that we can move forward fairly quickly with the process.
Okay. And then where can someone access the DD-214 form?
That would be available online if they have a veteran status, yes.
Okay. And then, sorry, my last question for you is, I know you were mentioning if you've applied from rounds 1 through 3, you should reapply. Round 4, you don't need to apply. And then I know you spoke that it's more so of a lottery system, but is there any, I guess, priority, sort of say, given to people who have been continuously applying but have not been chosen, compared to I come in for the first time in round 5 compared to X business or X nonprofit that's been applying every round they've been eligible for? Or is it just, as you mentioned, I know you said it's a lottery system, is it just a luck of the draw, sort of say?
It will be a luck of the draw, Peter. Unfortunately, it's not part of the weighted system to give preference for those that have reapplied or have been in the lottery longer. It'll just depend on what the computer selects on that day.
Perfect. Well, I do want to thank you again for your time, and for everybody, if we didn't get to your questions or if you have something else that comes up, please go ahead and email us. hello@scvchamber.com. We'll do our best to get you the necessary answers, or point you in the right direction. But Azusena, thank you so much for your time, and thanks so much for the information.
Thank you, Peter. And if you have any questions, again, I invite you to call the county's Disaster Help Center. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So with that, we are now going to be joined by Jeff Klein, Manager for Voter Education, Outreach, and Community Relations, who's going to give us an update on voting during a pandemic and what our options are this year. So Jeff oversees civic engagement, community relations, legislations, and programs related to voters with disabilities and multilingual assistance for the Los Angeles County Registrar Recorder and County Clerk's office. So Jeff, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you now.
Thanks, Peter. Great to be here with everybody. Glad to be able to talk about the election. It's only a few weeks away. And I'm going to go ahead and I have a PowerPoint here. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. Let's see here. Let's see here. Can everyone see that?
Perfect.
Okay, great. So we have a election coming up in a few weeks, and the presentation we have here today is called Voting in a Time of Pandemic. So there's a lot of unique challenges with the election for November. Just a little background information. In March, we moved to the vote center model, and so that was a pretty big change, pretty dramatic change to how we run elections. We moved away from polling places, where people were assigned to one specific location, to the vote center model, where people could vote anywhere in LA County at any vote center, and we had a period of several days of voting, which anyone could cast their ballot. This election, we're moving to some additional changes while we still have the vote center model, and that's still pretty new for a lot of voters, especially if you didn't vote in the primary, which, as we know, doesn't always get the best turnout. Also, we have vote by mail ballots that will be sent to everyone. We have social distancing to keep in mind. And so we have a number of other changes. So I'm going to go through those changes, and I'm happy to do some questions at the end. So just a little bit of an overview. We have 5.5 million voters in LA County. Everyone will receive a vote by mail ballot. You do not have to apply for a vote by mail ballot. You will automatically be sent one. And so just some background information. In the primary, we sent about 3 million vote by mail ballots out. So we will be sending about 2.5 million additional ballots. We have 5.5 million voters in LA County. We're actually the largest voting jurisdiction in the country. We have more voters than about 43 states have statewide. So it's a pretty massive task that we undertake to run elections for everyone in the county. If you do not want to use your vote by mail ballot, that's okay. We still have in-person voting available. We will have about 800 vote centers around LA County. They will be open for multiple days. We will be using social distancing and safe voting public health guidelines that have been adopted by the Secretary of State's office. And so I'll go into those towards the end of this presentation. We will still have 11 days of voting. So it's 10 days of early voting plus election day, and that gives us 11 days. Most vote centers will only be open for 5 days, but we will have some that are open 11 days. I'll get into that in a little bit as well. We also will have expanded vote by mail drop box. So you can mail your vote by mail ballot back. It's postage paid. So no issues with that. But if you want to use a vote by mail drop box, you're welcome to do that as well. And we will have hundreds of those all over LA County, 400 of them. You can also walk it in person and drop it off at a ballot box inside a vote center as well. So this is what our vote by mail drop boxes will look like. You may have already seen some of them up and already installed around LA County. All of them will be up and running or up and ready to accept ballots beginning October 5th. When you place your ballot inside, you need to sign the vote by mail return envelope. We check the signature of every single vote by mail ballot that we receive. I know there's concerns with the security in terms of election integrity, what makes it a safe process. What makes vote by mail a safe process is actually the fact that we do check every single signature that we receive. So it's not in the fact that we send the vote by mail ballot out to somebody. But I know there's a lot of chatter in the political sphere about, whether or not it's safe and secure process. What makes it secure is checking the signature on each vote by mail ballot. And if you do want to watch us check signatures, you can come down to our vote by mail facility and you can watch us for 12 hours a day checking signatures on every single vote by mail ballot. So place it inside the vote by mail drop box or return it by mail or drop it off in person. As mentioned, we will start sending out vote by mail ballots on October 5th. They go out. It takes a little time for vote by mail ballots or really any of our mailers to make it out into the community. I don't know if you've ever sent 5.5 million pieces of mail, but it does take a little time to get everything out into the mail. So if you don't get it by October 7th or 8th, we don't want anyone to panic. Give it a little bit longer. You can always call us if for some reason you miss it, you didn't notice that you got it, and maybe a week and a half has passed. You can contact us. and we will make sure to send you a replacement. Sometimes people who have never voted by mail before, they don't know what to look for and they overlook it. So just contact us. We'll ensure that you can get a replacement if for some reason you accidentally discarded it or you can't find it. You also, if you mail it to us, it has to be postmarked by election day. We recommend mailing it sooner if you're ready to cast your vote. But if you wait till election day, just make sure it's postmarked by election day. And we have up to 17 days to receive your vote by mail ballot. So even if I know there's a little bit of concern about mail being a little bit slow, it'll make it to us within 17 days. Just make sure it is, again, postmarked by election day. And of course, as mentioned, you can drop it off at a vote center. If you want to track your vote by mail ballot to follow it along its path to ensure that we receive it safely, you can sign up for Where's My Ballot. It's a program that the state runs. Go to california.ballottracks.net. You can also go to lavote.net. We also have a service that provides real-time updates. So let's say you put your ballot inside a vote by mail drop box. Our staff empties the drop box, takes it down to our vote by mail facility. We scan it as received. And then you'll get a notification right away that we received your ballot. And as it makes its way through the rest of the steps of the process, you'll get an update along that travel. If you do want to vote in person, that's a great option. We are promoting vote by mail as the safer option in terms of public health because it is essentially contactless, but some people either need in-person services for a variety of reasons, or they just prefer to have that in-person voting experience. And that's no problem. Again, we will have 800 locations. We will have 75, it's probably a little bit more than 75, 11-day locations, and those open on October 24th. The bulk of our vote centers, 700 or 725 around there, will open on October 30th, and that gives us our 800 total vote centers. They will be distributed geographically around LA County. We really target population centers. Sometimes we're a little bit at the mercy of facilities that are available for us to use, but for the most part, we really try to make them as accessible and available as possible. If someone does miss the voter registration deadline, they don't realize you have to re-register to vote by the 19th, they can still show up and they can cast what's called a conditional ballot. Conditional voter registration is where someone registers to vote, we hold on to their ballot, we verify that they're eligible and able to vote, and then we go ahead and count their ballot. If they're not eligible, we go ahead and set it aside and we don't count it. We have some unique high-profile locations because due to the pandemic and the public health crisis, people aren't going out into the public, facilities don't have fans coming out, customers, things like that. A lot of these organizations have really stepped up to offer us some pretty exciting voting locations. Of course, we will still use a lot of schools, we will still use a lot of community centers, things like that. But we have some high-profile locations that we're pretty excited about. I listed a few here. The Barker Hangar, which is in Santa Monica, the Galen Center, which is by USC, Dodger Stadium, Staples Center, the Hammer Museum, the Pantages Theater, Four Seasons Hotel, which is out in Westlake Village. Also in your area, I know Jethawk Stadium will be that's out in Lancaster, not directly in your area, but in the Antelope Valley, Jethawk Stadium. So there's a number of really exciting locations that we have to offer vote centers. The hours for early voting period will be 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and that's all the way through November 2nd. And this allows people who maybe have, they work maybe a 9-to-5 job. This gives them an evening time to vote, or if they maybe work a little bit later, they have that morning time to vote. And it'll also include weekends as well. Election day, it's still the traditional 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. As long as people are in line by the closing, so by 7 p.m. during the early voting period and by 8 p.m. on election day, you still get to vote. If you do vote in person, this is the voting system you will use. This was new for the March election, so you should expect to see this in November. It is our ballot marking device. You insert a paper ballot, you'll receive that when you check in, and then you will go ahead and you'll mark your selections. So it is still a paper-based system, even though you see sort of a tablet or touch screen there. The picture on the bottom left, you can see has a ballot sticking out of it and it's printed. That allows you to review your ballot, and then that's what we tabulate the election off of. We don't download any results or anything like that. We tabulate the paper ballots. So it's fully secure, no internet connection, no Wi-Fi or anything like that. If you go into a vote center, you'll actually see it just has a power cord. It does provide an independent and private voting experience. It's actually the first system ever developed where someone who is blind can cast a completely independent and private vote. That means not having to tell anyone how they want to vote and not having to give anyone their ballot, because the ballot gets cast on the same device. It goes right back into the ballot box that's attached to the back. So that's something that's pretty exciting. Really, the design idea behind the entire device is if the person who needs the highest level of assistance, if they can use it independently, then all of us can use it independently. It's fully accessible. If you know someone who has like let's say a sip and puff device, they can plug that in and they can vote using their sip and puff device. It has an audio headset attached, so you can hear your ballot in the language of your choice. And again, that would be useful for someone with a disability especially, but it can be used by anybody who would prefer to listen to their ballot rather than read it on the screen. And then also you can adjust the text size, enlarge the text, change the contrast and things like that. One other item that we introduced in the March primary, this was actually a lot of people hadn't heard about it, and then when they used it, it was really popular. It's our interactive sample ballot. So everyone will still get the paper sample ballot booklet in the mail. It lists everyone you're eligible to vote for. If you would like, you can use an interactive sample ballot, and you can make your selections on your mobile device or your home computer. It generates a poll pass. It's not your vote. There's no personal information. It's basically an electronic version of your selections, but it's not attached to your name or anything like that. So when you check in, you get a paper ballot, you insert that into the ballot marking device, and then you scan the poll pass and it instantly pre-populates your ballot. So I use this actually in the primary. It was a really great experience. I got my ballot when I checked in, and I was in and out after that in about 2 minutes because I just scanned it, I verified, I could make changes if I wanted, but I chose not to. I hit print and cast and I was done. So again, it was a really quick, expedited process. Okay, a couple more slides here and then I'm happy to do some questions. If you do vote in person, we will be using, as mentioned, social distancing, safe voting guidelines. Everyone who enters will need to be wearing a face covering or mask. We will have masks available if let's say you're really excited, you leave your car and you walk up there and you forget to bring your mask with you. We'll have one that we can go ahead and give you. We'll also have hand sanitizer and so forth. So all of that will be done right before you enter the facility. We'll have gloves available if you would like to use gloves, but those aren't required. Our workers will, of course, be wearing masks and gloves. Social distancing will be enforced, so the voting devices will be spaced 6 feet apart, and we will ensure that the line is spaced by 6 feet for each person. After you use a ballot marking device, we will wipe it down and sanitize it after every use and get it ready for the next voter. If someone chooses not to wear a mask, they don't want to wear a mask, but they want to vote, we do not want to turn people away. Instead, that person would utilize our curbside voting process, which means you would go back to your vehicle and you would use that. We would come out and assist you at your vehicle. So again, no one will be turned away from voting. We want to make sure everyone gets to cast their ballot, but for being inside the vote center, everyone will need to wear a face covering or a mask. And then the timeline. So we've passed September 24th, of course, and so sample ballot booklets have gone out. I don't know if anyone's received them yet. I did a presentation earlier in the week and a few people raised their hand that they've gotten their sample ballot booklet, so that was great to hear. Again, it does take a little time for 5.5 million pieces of mail to get out and through the mail process and get to everybody. So give it a little time if you still haven't received your sample ballot booklet. October 5th is when we will start mailing vote by mail ballots, and also drop boxes will be up and available for people to drop their ballot off. October 19th is the deadline to register to vote. October 24th, vote centers open up. That's our first 75. And then on October 30th, the bulk of the rest of the vote centers will open up. And then of course, election day is November 3rd. We do want to stress for people to vote early, not wait till election day if you are ready to cast your vote. That's why we have the full 11 days of voting available for everybody. And then the last thing I just want to mention is we're on social media. Please follow our information, share our information. What people trust the most about elections in this day and age of, fake news and misinformation and all of that. Just make sure you go to our website or our social media, and we have a lot of great information there. Best way to counter misinformation is to share the actual correct information and keep everyone well informed. With so many people, millions of people in LA County, we try to do our best to keep everyone informed, but it really takes a group effort to really spread the word and spread the correct information. All right, and there's my email if you do need to reach out and you want to contact me. Happy to answer any questions that we may not get to today. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here, and then happy to do, oh, there we go.
Perfect. Well, thanks for that, Jeff. I do have a few questions for you. First off, I know you just mentioned about, if somebody came in, didn't want to wear a mask, and there's the curbside type, voting, sort of say. Is that something that is going to be advertised, sort of say, when people get there? Is it only going to be used during that extreme case?
Well, we're telling everyone to wear their masks when they show up. I'd have to check to see if our messaging is, these are your options, wear a mask or don't wear a mask. I think we're trying to encourage everyone to wear a mask because curbside voting is a more cumbersome process, and it's actually not, it's not as fluid a process for voters. The purpose of curbside voting is really for, we've had it for a long time, for years and years and years in LA County. It's designed really for people who have a disability and aren't physically able to get out of their vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So we're adopting it for this election for individuals because we don't want to turn anyone away from voting. So we have the ability to, even if they refuse to wear a mask, we have the ability to do it. So our messaging is wear a mask if you're coming to vote, but that is an option available where if someone just adamantly refuses, then we will say, okay, we'll go back to your vehicle. We'll be there to assist you.
Okay. I know you mentioned a few different locations for voting centers and whatnot. Let's say I happen to just be out in downtown and I decide, oh, I'm here, I want to vote, and I go to Staples Center. Am I able to do that as long as I'm in the county, or do I have to vote in my precinct here in Santa Clarita since I live here?
No, the great thing about the vote center model is you can vote anywhere there's a vote center in LA County. So if you're a huge Lakers fan and you want to go down to Staples Center because you missed the lit Staples Center, you want to vote there, yeah, that's great. One thing I like to just kind of on that note, one of the big comments I heard a lot from presentations I did in the primary was people miss that feel of community, that, oh, I get to see my neighbors, I show up at my local polling place. You've kind of gotten rid of that feel. You actually can create your own community now because you can go to your family, you can go with your friends, and you could all go to the same vote center since everyone can go vote wherever. So we still have that sense of community. It's different now, and I think it's better, right? Because you can go, everyone can meet up at one vote location, or let's say everyone is at church and everyone who's at the same church leaves together and they want to vote at a vote center near that church. That's great. That's an option that everyone could do.
Perfect. And then, so I believe I had seen somewhere that if you do decide to vote in person, you need to bring your mail-in ballot and exchange it. What happens if for some reason I tossed it, I didn't realize it was in the mail, it got stuck somewhere, and I throw it away, and then I go to vote in person? Do I need it, or what would then be the case to make sure I haven't submitted that already?
So you don't need to bring it anymore. In the polling place model, we asked people to bring it so we could void it out. Under the vote center model, we now can actually look up real time in our voter database and we can cancel it out.
Okay.
And then you would vote in person. So if you voted in person and then you went home and you tried to mail in your vote by mail ballot, when we receive it, we'll see that you voted in person and we won't count it.
Okay. So you don't need it to bring it in anymore?
No,
right?
No. You can if you want. If you feel more comfortable and you want us to just void it out, that's okay too.
Okay. So I know you mentioned early voting does start in a couple weeks, and then obviously ballots are coming out on Monday, and then we've got the centers opening up. I know there isn't much data to go off of with this, but do you guys predict less people turning up day of election?
That's a really good question. Turnout is very hard to, in-person turnout's very hard to predict right now. There's so many more variables. We had a big lines, and I don't think this is a secret to anybody, in the primary, we had issues with lines, and a lot of it was moving to this new process. And there was a lot of, anytime you move to a new program or a new service that's dramatically different, there's always unexpected, issues. So, and it's not to be defensive or anything, we fully admit that there were things that needed to go better. We've worked on those issues, so we're confident moving forward that we have a better plan for implementing that and rolling it out. The one thing that we do want to keep stressing, though, is to vote early. If everyone does still keep waiting till election day, that's what creates those lines. So we really want to encourage people to vote even the day before or on the weekend. Many people already know how they're voting, so that's great. Election day is there, and many people do feel that's the traditional day of voting, and that's okay if you want to do that. But it's hard with turnout was about 38% in the primary, and many people voted in person. In the November election, you'll have higher turnout just because the general elections always have higher. But how many people will end up going in person during a pandemic? How many people will use vote by mail? But with some of the sort of the political rhetoric out there, how many people continue feeling comfortable about vote by mail? And then, there's all kinds of different variables that are really unpredictable. So it's hard to know. We just want to try to encourage people to take care of things earlier if they're able to.
Right. And then I know one of your slides had the hours, and I apologize if I missed it. Are the centers open on Saturdays, or is it just Monday to Friday? They are open.
Yeah, every day during that period,
okay.
Saturdays and Sundays.
Cool. And then Jeff, kind of what type of work or conversations, has your office had with, the health department, whoever it is, to ensure voting in person is as safe and secure as possible? And kind of when did those conversations start?
Sure. So that's a big focus by the state, and the state's really put together very comprehensive public health guidelines specific to elections. And then, of course, we've been consulting with our county health officials as well. And there's been a lot of conversations because we are using schools, even though schools are closed, but it's still something, those conversations really had to take place. We've actually run 3 elections using our public health guidelines people may not be aware of. There was the CD25 election, which was in your community. And if people went and voted in that election, they would have seen us using public health guidelines. And then we ran 2 other ones in different parts of the county. So we've already had some experience running those. So it's been pretty extensive, the work we've done around that.
Gotcha. Jeff, I'll go ahead and let you close out with this question. Personally, what's your take on in-person voting, especially this year?
Well, so I never like to give my personal opinion during these presentations because I'm really just representing our department. But I will say that, the safest method is voting by mail. That is, keeps people out of the public. We're trying to avoid people congregating. But both are great methods to vote. And I know there's that certain excitement with voting in person. And I personally get that excitement. That's something I really love to do. Just for this election, it might be something, I wouldn't want to go to a vote center and find it to be full of people. I don't know how comfortable I would be personally going in there. And that's, even though we're going to be spacing everything out, you never know, just, more people, the more, you're at risk, obviously. But they're both great methods. We are just trying to really promote the safer method as the #1 choice, but we wanted to give in-person voting for people who need that service or would prefer and don't really want to use the vote by mail option.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. I really, really do appreciate it. And I know Azusena is still on. I want to thank you both again for taking the time today to share all this information, with our community. So thank you both for that. Everyone, thanks for joining us. Jeff mentioned a few different ways for you to check about how to track your ballot, make sure you register vote, and all that. If you visit the Chamber's website, scvchamber.com, under our advocacy tab, you'll see our Election Watch 2020 page. We have all those links there for you. It's an easy one-stop shop for you to go in and check all that out. And so with that, if there's anything that we didn't get to that you had a question on, or if something comes up, again, please email us, scvchamber.com. We'd be more than happy to pass the information along or try to get you an answer to your question. And with that, we hope you all stay safe, stay healthy. And Jeff, Azusena, thank you both so much. And everybody else, thanks again for attending.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Appreciate it.